Hello and welcome. My name is Carol Carter and I'm the founder and CEO of GlobalMindED. And we are all about creating a capable, diverse talent pipeline to get more women, people of color, underrepresented populations, and ability status, LGBTQ. Any way you can define diversity is how we define diversity. So our community is very inclusive. Everyone is welcome. And we are all about opportunities in the education, employment, and economic mobility pipeline. So we are launching next week our conference, which is annually every year. This year it'll be virtual. And preceding our launch next week, we have a special series this week called Celebrating Our Graduates 2020. And we've had some wonderful people speak this week. They're all going to be up on our YouTube channel if you didn't have a chance to join us for some of the other sessions. And we are absolutely delighted today to have GlobalMindED's Director of Leadership, Rocio Perez, who is one of the most incredible and successful people that I've ever met, and she's going to be talking to us today about how to be unstoppable. And I will tell you, in the 4 years or 5 years that I've known Rocio, she has impressed me as a leader who is very genuine of heart. She is somebody who does not let anyone or anything dog her dreams. And she's somebody who I have seen more than any other person I know create opportunities for other people. So she has been the person who's worked with our first generation to college graduates. Every year we have at least 100 students. This year we can open that up because we'll be virtual. But she has helped these students as a mentor with what we call the hidden curriculum. She's helped these students build their networks. And she has helped them get internships and jobs and develop the vision of who they want to become as a leader on their own terms. So she has a wonderful story. She has 2 master's degrees. She's got her own company, Inventiva Consulting, and has leadership that is throughout the nation and throughout the world. So we're really honored to have Rocio here today. And she's going to share with us about her work and her vision with being unstoppable. And you will be able to be unstoppable once you hear her insights. So welcome, Rocio.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you for the gracious introduction. I'm so honored and pleased to be here presenting among first-gen students, being a first-gen myself. And today we're talking about being unstoppable. What does that look like? What does life look like? By being unstoppable for me, I'm going to start with my story, my journey, my vision, and what it was when I was a little girl. I grew up with an amazing dream. I wanted to become a teacher, and I remember running around with my tattered books, and they'd be falling apart, and I would just tell my Uncle Sergio, someday I'm going to become a teacher because I want to inspire people. That was my entire life. That's what I talked about. I would talk with my brother. I was only 5 at the time. And so as time went on, I would talk with my brother. I'm like, brother, when you grow up, what do you want to be? What does life look like? And I would reminisce and just really relish in what this future would look like for me. I lived in that dream, yet my reality was very far-fetched from the world that I wanted to be in. I grew up in extreme poverty, abuse of all kinds across the board. And my parents were Mexicano immigrants from Mexico, and I just grew up going from point A to point B. My father would say some days, get your things, we're moving. And it's not like get your things like whatever you choose and the movers are coming. It's like get whatever it is that we decided to pack in a car with 5 kids and 2 adults, and we would start from 0. So my life started from 0 over and over and over again, to the tune that we moved to Colorado. By the time I was 10, we had moved to Colorado twice, a total of 13 moves from home to home to home and place, and starting from 0 all the time. And so one of the greatest things that I took from there was the fact that I can create any reality. I can become anyone, and really staying true to what my dreams were. So at a very young age, at the age of 12, I decided to leave home. I didn't see those opportunities that were there for me. I didn't find my family being very supportive by any stretch of the imagination. I looked at my grandmother one day and I said, Grandma, you know they're going to kill me. And her response was, I know. I said, well, I need you to help me. I need you to help me run away. And so at the age of 12, with the support of my 16-year-old uncle at the time, I ran away from home to start a new life, a new reality. My parents ended up leaving back to Texas, and I stayed here in Colorado, started off my life. Fast forward, things were better. They weren't quite ideal. Having a 6th grade education at the time, my grandparents had agreed that they would take me back. They would take me back to my parents by the time I was 14. I said, there's no way that I can go back to the very place that I came from. I know what that looks like. And if they didn't kill me the first time, they'll definitely kill me for doing what I did, which was running away. And so at the age of 14, I ran away with my 22-year-old boyfriend. And that was on February 3rd, 1990. I had a 6th grade education. 2 weeks later, you would guess it, I was pregnant. A whole new, different reality. When girls my age were out planning for their proms and parties and hanging out with their friends, I was pushing a baby buggy. So instead of having a quinceañera, I had a baby. And starting off with that dream, I always had that dream at the forefront of my life. The relationship with my son's father was not ideal. Again, there's a certain level of abuse on that. And at the age of 15, I knew things for certain. I knew that my son being born to a 12-year-old runaway, whose family didn't support her, who was a teenage mother, who wasn't in a good relationship, uneducated, he didn't stand a chance in the world. And so at the age of 15, I mustered up the courage. I dusted off my dream because it was dim. It wasn't dark. It was just dim. And I dusted it up, put some life support on there, put some light on it. And I walked straight into a community college of Denver, to be precise. I took my AccuPlacer. I was so excited. I ran over to Rosemary and I said, Rosemary, I have my AccuPlacer results here. What classes do I qualify for? And she looks at me and says, Rocio, you're only 15. I said, I know. And from being 15, she's like, you can't come to university. You can't go to college at this time. And I said, how is that possible? So I kept on asking, how else can I come? Well, your parents would have to decide. I said, I haven't seen my parents for 4.5 years and they have no desire to see me. They don't want to see me at all. Actually, it was 3.5 years at that time. They had no desire to see me. And how do I get into school? And I continued to ask, because I knew one thing for certain. If I left there without an answer, I would always have a question. And so I continued to ask, how else can I go to college? How else can I go to college? Well, you have to be 16 in order to go to college. You have to be emancipated was the very last thing. And that word seemed like this big to me at that moment. I'm like, emancipated? What does that word mean? I haven't a clue in the world what that meant. And so she explained to me, you would need to divorce your parents. You still have to be 16 years of age so you can go. And soon enough, I went home, and I remember my mentor, Anne. I just waited for the moment because I was so excited. I'm like, Anne, someday I'm going to go to college, right? And Anne was very disappointed that I chose not to go to high school. She was literally, I lived on the 3rd floor. And you haven't heard this story yet, Carol, but I was on the 3rd floor and she's downstairs coming in the foyer and she's like, Rocio, what are you going to do the day that your son grows up and says, I need help with my homework? What are you going to do? Are you going to tell him you don't know? And out of respect, I didn't argue with Anne. I just wanted to make sure that give her some time to cool down. I had my plan. I was going to go to college. That was my plan. And once she cooled down, I called Anne. I said, Anne, I really want to go to college. I know that you want me to go to high school. I can't go to high school. I don't want to go to high school. And I seen a lot of things in my family that I didn't want to replicate, that I wanted to expose my son to things that I didn't want to expose him to. People around me were drinking, having, parties and getting all kinds of trouble. I decided not to bring my son in that particular environment. And in running away, I completely shifted that. And so when Anne said, I said, Anne, I just need to get emancipated. That's it. How do I do that? I don't even know where to go. 30 days later, with Anne's support, while she was watching my son outside, I was sitting with a judge divorcing my parents so that I can go to college. I was 15 years old. Later, I was accepted around 16 and started college at 17, and it was an amazing experience. I was so excited. I'm like, wow, now I get to go to college. Now I must figure out how to pay for it. And that was the least of my worries. I just wanted to figure out, I knew that that dream was going to become a reality. And the reality was also that it was going to take some work. And it was difficult because it was uphill both ways. How many of you have ever lived anything that feels like it's uphill both ways? And you're going to meet yourself and just say, me, right? So we've all been there. We've all done that. And for me, that dream was 8 hours of bus time every day between waiting, walking. I'd go to bed at midnight every night. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, make my son's father's lunch. I would make my son's lunch, my lunch. By 4 o'clock in the morning, I have a heavy backpack full of books, super crazy heavy, with a 2-year-old in my arms, fully bundled for the snow, with a blanket over him. If you could only imagine, babies are heavy enough as they are, with his diaper bag. Going across 2 cities, taking a total of 4 buses just to make it to university, in the snow, uphill both ways. And if I had time, I would eat my burrito that was cold. I had made it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm eating it at 8 o'clock in the morning, making it across campus, and just making it happen. That was my dream, and I was willing to pay whatever price. That's where me and Unstoppable comes from. It's like, no matter what, people would tell me, Rocio, you're never gonna make it. I even had my own mom when I left my son's father. It took me 17 failed attempts to leave that abusive relationship. And I was 19 and a half years old, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I have to find another way. Obviously, the ways that I've attempted haven't been successful, so let me go find another way. Finally left him. And my mom tells me, you should be home, taking care of your husband, tending to your child. And I just figured, I took my grandfather's advice, never argue with people. It doesn't serve you in any way, shape, or form. It's better for one person to argue with themselves than for you to sit there and argue and waste your time with them. And I took that advice to heart. I really took it to heart, and I said, okay, thank you, Mom. That was it. I continued, fast forward, by the time I was 19, I was mentoring students. I was in management by the time I was 17 with my job. I was in leading students by the time I was 19, helping them discover most of the students that I was leading had a high school education. They were either on their second degrees. Most of them were old enough to be my parents in some cases. And here I was leading the way and finding the way and paving the way for others while I was still even figuring out my own way. I graduated a lot of students. It's very interesting, Carol, here. We're talking 23 years ago. I graduated with my own students. Okay, I started off as an entrepreneur and have been an entrepreneur most of my life and most of my career. I have a company by the name of Inventiva. Carol mentioned that. And in that, it was always a track of how do we find a way? How do I do this? How do I bring this to fruition? I want it bad enough. And I've always wanted everything bad enough. And I was willing to pay whatever price and just keep on moving. The only thing I can focus on, somebody asked me recently, Rocio, what do you not want to happen? And that was such a difficult question to answer. I said, not want to happen? The only thing that I could ever see in my entire life is, what do I want to happen? And I'm going to step towards it, and I'm going to walk towards it, and I'm going to figure out a way. And there were days that I would fall. I literally fell to my knees one day when I was working really hard. I was cleaning homes for a living, half-time. I was mentoring students half-time. I was going to school full-time or double-time, depending on the semesters on there. And this particular time, I was giving it everything I had. I was getting up at 5 a.m., ready to go by 6, and I'd fall asleep with my books in my backpack, and it was just life. And I remember this one day that I could not afford to buy my son a pair of shoelaces. I had a choice. Do I buy him a gallon of milk? And it still gets me. Do I buy him a gallon of milk, or do I buy him some shoelaces? And I remember coming to my knees and saying, wow, I've got to make it happen. I've got to make it. And the only thing I can focus on is just keep going to school, keep going to school. You're going to get it. Someday you're going to get it. And it's there in time. And I ran across other situations in my life where one day when I had graduated when I was 21 from community college before I headed off to the university. I remember I was in tears because I called my mom and I'm like, Mom, I'm so excited. I'm graduating from college and now I have my associates. I want you. She was my first invitation to that event. And I said, Mom, I would love for you to come. She goes, I won't. My second phone call was to my grandmother. Grandma, I really want you to be there for me. I won't. Like everyone I had invited that was important to me decided that they weren't going to go to my graduation. And I said, okay. So the next day, as I had taken my son and my youngest brother, who I was legally responsible for at the time, and our cousin as well, younger cousin, I show up the very next day after graduation into Benita's office. And I'm like sobbing, and I'm like, Benita, like my family didn't show up. Nobody showed up. I was there by myself. No one showed up. And Benita gave me the wisest advice that I have ever received. She goes, Rocio, someday you have to start your own family. You have to create your own experiences, your own celebrations. And that's where it began in that moment, that I had to start to become somebody who I was not. We're always in the process of becoming, right? Sometimes when we get things that are difficult, for me, I just saw an opportunity. I heard her words. I felt her words. And I knew in that moment that I had to move forward and start creating a world that I wanted. So there was celebration after celebration, graduation after graduation. My family never showed up. You know, my last graduation, my brothers showed up. I had two of my brothers show up, and that was the extent of it, and my uncle. And so just knowing that was for my dual MBA on there. And then the final graduation was my son and his wife, and that was it, right? Life was life. Life is what we make of it. Either we can sit there and dwell on the past as I could have, should have, would have, you know, everything was available to me. Or I could have found opportunities to be that unstoppable self, to be that person that continues to move through those moments of difficulty, to find a way no matter what. Just like when I didn't have money to either I was paying for daycare, which I needed, that was my highest expense, or I was paying for books. And Benita was such a lifesaver, because sometimes I would like, Benita, like the only thing I have is like either daycare or books, you know, do you have any scholarships? Where do I go for scholarships? I'm applying for scholarships here. I'm constantly asking for help. You know, at one point I became super resourceful to continue to ask for support, because at another point I wasn't. In the beginning, I was running around, just walking my head down, you know, trying to get through university really fast, didn't know who to ask, didn't feel safe, felt like an outsider in my own world. And here I was at that moment that I had finally broken through, and I got vulnerable. I really got authentic, and I'm like, Benita, I really need help. Like, I need help. Where do I get these books from? And I remember I'd go up to the university president, and we're talking 20 plus years ago, and I would say, Michael, I need books. Do you have a budget for them? Do you have any budget for students? And it's pretty humbling to even see the spiral notebook, because among my purchases, I had purchased a spiral notebook with that money that he gave me for each of my classes. And I cherish that to this moment, just to know what an impact, what a difference somebody, just by even asking over and over again, you know, how can I do this? I know that it's possible, because anything is possible and it's probable. If it's in our mind, it can come to life. You know, I wish I had organizations like GlobalMindED that would have been there to support me, to teach me the ropes, to help me figure out what's here, what's there. How do I manage this? How do I even get an internship? What do I do through all this? I had to walk that road, and it was a long and lonely and windy and roller coaster type of a road into that. And so I continued just to move through life. It was just life. And I remember when I came home one day, I decided I was going to go for my dual MBA. And I was so excited. I was working 60, 70 hours a week, and I had just gotten accepted. And I remember Dr. Luca Pawanga was my advisor. And I came home, and my son was 14 at the time. And I said, I am just like on fire. And I'm like, son, I just got accepted. And he looks at me and goes, Mom, okay, great. Tell me more. And so I'm telling him, I'm like, they'd given me 6 years to get through university. How can I get on there? I'm really, really excited. And he tells me, Mom, what do you want? And I said, I know I can make it in 2 years. It was a long shot. It was a long shot, working 70 hours a week, traveling, piloting programs across the entire state. I had 18 plus programs that I was piloting from point A to point B, from every corner in the state, and still making it every single day. And that was something that I just continued to move towards. In that, when he said, Mom, go for it. What do you want? I said, okay, I'm going to do it in 2 years. And I said, you know what? It's going to take something from both of us. There will be sacrifices. There'll be times that means, what does this mean to us? That it's going to take some time, that here I am, I'm going to work late, go to school late, I'll need your support. So pulling in that support was so important from him, and just being completely transparent. This is what it's going to take. This is the family unit moving together. It was him and I. You know, it's been him and I since I was 14 years old. It's him and I throughout life, and let's continue to move forward. And during that time, I got accepted. Life was great. I'm moving in. I'm applying for other fellowships and scholarships. And in one of those scholarships, actually it was a fellowship, I wrote on there that I wanted to go ahead and build another business, a business where America can thrive, that people can thrive. I wanted to build a home from the ground up for my son so that he can experience that anything was possible. We never know how life brings us those things. What I can tell you is that I had the privilege to build a home from the ground up. And when we were building that home, I was working 70 hours a week. I was going to school double time. I wasn't even allowed to go full time. I went to school double time while we were building the home, and I was still traveling and working 70 hours a week. And that was extraordinary because I wanted to teach my son. It's like, son, you can do anything. We lived in Lakewood and drive all the way to Boulder, an hour plus drive on the weekends to go look at the house. And I remember standing by the home when I found out. I'm like, wow, this is so exciting. We broke ground. Things are great. We're building. And then I make the realization that I couldn't afford the home. Now, again, this is my dream. And I was willing to do anything and everything. I'm still in school, still figuring it out. Took another extra job. And I remember being in the home in Boulder. It's just the shell of the home. There's plastic. It's the middle of the winter. And I'm standing there. I'm like, this is my home. This is my home. And I can barely make out the flat irons right on there. And I'm like, this is our home. This is our home. That's it. Without a shadow of a doubt. This is our home. I'm going to make it happen. I got another job. Imagine, you know, as if school work was not enough. I get another job on top of it. We were able to make it. And the moment that I closed, the day that I closed on that home, on July 26th, I walked over to that same window frame. And I'm like, I knew this. I knew this was my home because I knew that it was going to belong to me as long as I continue to persist and do the work and do it and continue moving forward. And that was one of the greatest blessings, to show my son that no matter what life looks like, you can do it. And he never forgot that. You know, when we had friends coming over, his girlfriend had come over one day and she's like, wow, look at you guys, you know, look at where you're living, look at what you're doing. And he's like, you know what, this cost us a lot of hard work. It wasn't given to us. We went through a lot to be here where we're at now, and just very appreciative in that. So one of the greatest lessons that I learned in life is that what we work for is what we will get. If we think we can, we can. If we think we can't, we can't. They're both right, just like Henry Ford said. Success is something that we plan for, and so is failure, right? Failure and success are the same thing. Either we take action or we don't. We're still going to get a result. And just like Earl Nightingale would say, the land, just like a farmer, it doesn't matter. The land doesn't care what you plant on it, whether we're planting strychnite, which in this right here is like negativity, that I can't do attitude, or whether we're planting this amazing seed that's going to bring us life. It's going to give it to us no matter what. And that's the core of what life is. As we continue to move forward, as we continue to take action, as we continue to make steps over and over again, and getting involved was so huge. How do we get involved? I taught my son how to get into politics. I knew nothing about politics, okay? First and foremost, I taught him by being immersed in it. I didn't teach him about volunteering because, hey, go volunteer there. I taught him by jumping in there with both feet. We were both learning at the same time, figuring out compassion and empathy and vulnerability and connection, and how do we support people where they're at so that they can have the life that they dream and they desire. I've had the privilege to work with individuals who had a third grade education in their country, didn't even speak English, to be extraordinary individuals, to graduate from an institution of higher ed, 80% English proficient, and later pursue a federal credential in education. How's that possible, right? For me, it's to continue to ask, it's to continue to read, and especially if we think we have a lot going on, just add one more thing. Add one more thing. Because everything that we add, every single book that we decide to read, I remember graduate school people would say, they would come over and like, Rocio, why do you have 10 extra books on your coffee table? Because it's worth it. I want to read it. I just became this bookworm, curious about life, curious about anything and everything that I can get a hold of. And it was through reading. It was through connecting with others. It was through putting myself in places that, quite frankly, there was moments that I was just scared. I'm like, I've never been here. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to act. I don't know what to do. How do I continue to move forward? And I just continue to take that chance over and over and over again. And today I have the privilege to say that I've graduated thousands of students. I have clients all over the world. And I've had clients all over the world for a very long time, for many, many years. And today my son's 29 years old, which is probably one of the wildest things that I can imagine right now. 29-year-old. I have a 5-year-old grandson, and I couldn't be prouder to teach Emilio how to be unstoppable, where he can see himself. I'm like, Emilio, you've got this. And just the mere fact that Emilio repeats himself, I've got this. And I remember one day I'd come over and Emilio wanted to go over to the school next door. And he's like, let's go to the school. And he's 3 years old. And I'm, let's go, Emilio. And so we walk over to the school and he's seeing the monkey bars. I'm putting them up on my shoulder and he's going, what? And he's like, Grandma, I'm scared. And I'm like, no, you've got this, Emilio. And he's like, repeat after me, Emilio, you've got this. I've got this, Grandma. I've got this, Grandma. And I've got this, Grandma. And then there's this big old monkey bar type of dome that he wanted to climb, and he's scared and he's shaking. And I'm like, Emilio, you've got this, you've got this. And he's like, no, Grandma. I'm like, yes, you do. And so, and he's like moving up and he gets all the way to the top. I have this beautiful picture of Emilio looking at me. And I'm like, Emilio, just stand there. Okay, just stand there because we're taking this moment. And just like every moment in life, it depends on what we tell ourselves. If we think we can, we can. And if a 3-year-old can repeat that to themselves, and just like even recently, Emilio at the age of 4, almost 5, he was standing there and he couldn't catch a ball and he's catching like this. Of course, he's not going to catch it if he goes like this. And then he learns to catch like this. And then he's crying. I'm like, Emilio, you've got this. You've got this, Emilio. And all of a sudden he's getting into himself into the most positive state of mind. I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. I threw the ball and Emilio caught it. And I threw it again. You got it. Who's got it, Emilio? I've got it. Who's got it, Emilio? I've got it. And he catches it again. And he catches it again and again and again. And I'm recording video after video, watching him of what's possible. Because being unstoppable is a state of mind. Being unstoppable is what we tell ourselves we are. Being unstoppable is a decision. And even if it feels scary, because it does feel scary in the beginning sometimes. Sometimes we doubt ourselves. Sometimes we're not so excited to see what's going on. And yet we can continue to move forward. We can continue to make those decisions. We can continue to tell ourselves, I've got this. We can continue. Being unstoppable is being vulnerable. It's saying, hey, Carol, maybe I don't have this, right? Or Benita, maybe I need help over here. Or Professor, here's what I'm looking for. I don't know how to get this. I don't know what that is. Being unstoppable is continuing to ask questions over and over again, even when we think nobody's listening. Being unstoppable is finding a solution no matter what. I learned one of the greatest lessons from my grandmother, that everything in this world has a solution, except for death, right? And as we continue to look through that and continue to move forward to bring our dreams to fruition, and continue to ask, and finding mentors. Finding mentors is one of those things that's so important. Find a mentor. Find somebody that is committed to you. Find somebody that you can even come and talk with no matter what. I know that although my mentors, they never claim credit for the work that I did with them. I would come by and they said, "Oh, we never did anything for you." And I said, well, just the fact that I knew somebody was there was enough for me. I would come in and present what seemed to be crazy ideas to them and to the whole world. And then I'd get them and I'm like, "See, moms and pops, I've got it. You know, like, here I am, I'm graduating, I'm here and I'm there." And knowing that people are always going to be there to support us no matter what. As long as we're vulnerable and we ask for that support, as long as we're authentic and we continue to move forward. And just to know that everything always has a solution. People will always celebrate us at the end of our journey. And yet it's a beautiful journey as well. So they will always celebrate that, and knowing that sometimes it's difficult. They've been there, they've done that. Maybe they've never seen it. And for my mentors, Ann, Billy, and Dave, none of them had seen this before. They could never relate to me. And that was okay, because the only one that needed to relate to me was me. The only one that needed to understand where I was going was me. Because if I had my roadmap with me everywhere I went, even if somebody let me down, or maybe they didn't let me down, maybe they were just so busy with their family, maybe something happened in their life and their work and whatever, I had that roadmap. I can go back to that roadmap. Okay, step number 10. Who else can I find to help me do this? Step number 11. Who else can I find to help me do this? And it was like, and even though I didn't know what that road looked like in the very end, that didn't matter. The only thing that I focused on was what was possible and probable in this world for me and for my son. And because of that, the history of my entire family has changed. My son graduates this month. My daughter-in-law graduates this month. I have 3 nieces in university right now. Because of me, I have cousins in university that would have never gone to university. My own family has been impacted. The course of our life has been impacted forever because of that. And so this work, I love this work. I love helping people see their own greatness, because there's greatness inside of all of us. It's there. And that's what's exciting. Everything is there and it's before us. As long as we continue to ask those questions, how else can I get there? How else? And if you take one of those things away from here today, I would say, ask the question, how else? Especially when somebody says no. Most of us will turn away when somebody says no the first time, maybe the second time, maybe the third time. Continue to ask until you get what you desire. That's the biggest thing. And because there's always a solution to everything, just like grandmother said. So at this moment, I would love to turn it over to you, Carol. You want to start asking questions, and I'm here to share anything and everything that you want to know. Carol, you're on mute. You're on mute, Carol.
Hold on. There we go. Can you hear? Okay. First, I just want to say there's so many things to acknowledge you for, Rocio, but a couple that really stand out that I think some of our graduates can really look at themselves and go, I'm committing to this. One is, you were never afraid to ask for help. You were never ashamed of what was happening. You were never doubting that anybody would be able to help you. You're such excellent self-advocate. And I think that's something just for all of us through life, we have to be able to have that. And we may not know who can help us, but we have to hold out that somebody will be able to, even when they're not in our lens right then.
Most definitely. I think that's the biggest thing right there, Carol, is to making sure that we must become our best advocates. We must become our best friends. We must become that holder of that dream, like right here. So in speaking of that, one day, Carol, when I was in my early 30s, I had just graduated from university. I remember sitting down with my son, who was 16 at the time. So by the way, my dual MBA took 18 and a half months, not 2 years. And so after I graduated in April, closed on my house in July. All right, so it was all worth every ounce of effort. And so I remember sitting down with my 16-year-old son and saying, son, someday I want to create a program. How amazing would it be to create a program that transforms the lives of individuals? And we wrote it down on a note card. What would this look like? I want to transform the lives. How about of single mothers, since I was a single mother, and we're outlining it. What does this program look like? How to transform somebody's life. And last year, I launched my book, Unstoppable: 7 Steps for Becoming a More Intentional Leader. It became an international bestseller literally within 12 hours after launching it. And so one day I'm driving down the highway, down I-25 here in Colorado. The book was sitting right next to me. And I just got really teary-eyed because I realized I had created that.
Mm-hmm.
That program was right there. As a matter of fact, this book came from my program that I had been teaching people for years. And I just finally decided to put it inside of a book. And it was that moment that I realized, I said, wow, it's been here. It's always been here. I just never saw it. So,
well, and that's where I just want to acknowledge you for that. And then another thing that really strikes me is that you have such really strong reserves of self-reliance, that you really believe that anything you want to have happen can happen. And I think for young people right now going through COVID, feeling disappointed of the things maybe that haven't been able to happen this month, last month, the kinds of rituals and things that would typically happen, your indomitable spirit and your outlook is something that can show them their own strength to be able to take this whole experience and find the greatest reserves of what they're capable of, just like your really hard upbringing, before you were 5 and between, the ages of 5 and 12 is really like what has powered you to be so successful through being a teenage mom and into adulthood with all these different aspects of yourself. So I just want to be able to make that connection for all of you, that I think Rocio is such an example of that. And one person asked, how can I get this presentation? We have a YouTube channel called GlobalMindED 2020, and these different segments are on that YouTube channel. So you can watch them virtually with your students. You can watch them by yourselves. You can, have these at your disposal so that we can really help you during this time. But let's hear some other questions that you all might have for Rocio, because one of the special things when we bring people like Rocio to you is that you get time with people that you normally wouldn't be meeting, and they really want to hear from you. So I would just encourage you to put on that Rocio outlook and just come up with some questions right now that you can really connect with your experiences to Rocio's experiences, so that you can really make the most out of this opportunity with her right now.
And in the meantime, Carol,
while we're waiting for a question, do you have a new book out?
I do. As a matter of fact, I have a book that I'm launching right now. It's titled The Ripple Effects. That's a new way looking.
Better write it down.
Like, yes, the ripple.
I'll put it in the chat, Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
And it's extraordinary. That book is to help people from a step-by-step system. So as it is with Unstoppable, how to become unstoppable. What's going to get in the way? The ripple effects is to take us through that daily journey. People get on my calls. I have calls 6 days a week now, and it's been extraordinary. The people that have purchased that book, it's in pre-sales right now, and I've sent them one of the most powerful exercises that I know. They buy it at night. In the morning, they get on my call, and they're like, I'm unstoppable. Like, they're really sensing it. They're feeling it, and you can see their lives are completely transforming throughout the days. Every single day that they do that exercise, they start getting even stronger and stronger, and they're taking chances, and then they're doing things that they normally wouldn't do based on that. Just that one exercise, super powerful. As a matter of fact, it's so powerful, I do it myself every day. Every day before I go do anything. I wake up, I meditate. So maybe let's just talk about here super quickly too, Carol. What are the keys for success? This is a moment for us. COVID for me is just an opportunity to get us on the right track. to really refocus us to what's important in our lives, I started writing even more. I started to have more time for myself. Before I was running around doing this, and I'm on this stage and this media and that event, everywhere. And now it's just like a time to focus, a time to really look and analyze and figure out what's important. Then I discovered what my success ritual was. I thought it was just journaling. It was actually meditating. I get up in the morning, I meditate for a couple of hours. I go ahead and move on and do my affirmations in the morning. I journal. I go through my ripple effects. Who do I choose to be today exercise? It's a 21 question exercise. I'm doing additional meditations and journaling. I exercise. That's all before 7 a.m. That's all before 7 a.m. So by the time I get on my calls, I'm on fire. Like hello world, I'm right here. So one of the things I recommend for anyone is what's our success ritual? What makes you happy? What makes you excited about today? What makes you fired up that every time you go back into doing whatever it is that makes you successful, you get that same result, that you're on fire, that life is amazing, that anything is possible and it's probable. I've had individuals, I have the privilege to work with individuals all over the world, and in hearing them in a number of sessions, this morning was no different. I literally spoke with somebody at 10:15. They hired me by 10:20. And I'm like, okay, now we're going. It's like full speed ahead. Let's clear the deck and go on and help them create something that's extraordinary. They've been on a journey for many, many years, and now they see something new for themselves. Now they're inspired. To me, that's gold. That's gold. To see the possible, what's possible. Go ahead.
And that's awesome. And Rocio, you have so generously made available the morning phone calls. Can Lisa or I write in the information if some of these folks and some of their colleagues or friends or their students, if they're teachers, might know about those phone calls, and we can put your contact info, and then you can share a little bit about what you do on those calls.
Most definitely. Those calls, I open them free into the public through the end of May. And people come on, it's a 30-minute call, 30 minutes, 7:30 to 8 a.m. every single day, Monday through Saturday. We're just discussing who are we being in that. We're discussing what's holding us back. People are completely fired up. As you get on those calls, you start to hear the possibilities and probabilities. And if you were to hear those calls from the beginning to today, people's lives are completely shifting. They're much happier. They're excited. They're seeing that they're the ones who are causing the life that they desire, which is extraordinary. They're the ones that are in control of their life 100%, and they choose. They will be the first to say, I'm the one who's choosing to be this way. I'm the one who's choosing to be unstoppable. I'm the one who's choosing to ask for help. I'm the one who's choosing to be vulnerable and even say, forgive me. Please forgive me for what I did. And even this is what an amazing time in our history right now to be able to have that opportunity to be able to say things like that.
And is there a phone number we might be able to put in the chat that we could share?
Most definitely. And what I'm going to do, Carol, I'll go ahead and right now, in the meantime, as people are connecting, I'm going to go ahead and send you this via text.
Okay, we'll put it in. Yep.
Great. So I'll copy it.
Perfect.
What other questions do we have?
Yeah, and guys, feel free if you want to unmute yourself and ask a brief question. Go ahead, because we've got about looks like about 10 minutes. So feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question.
I have a quick question, if I may. Yeah, I loved your story. A lot actually resonated on a very deeply personal level. My question is in terms of, asking for help and being vulnerable and, having mentors and asking somebody else for help, whether it's materials or economic or what. Was there ever a point in your life, I think some of us might get stopped up by shame. Was there ever a point where it was difficult to ask for help, or were you always able to know that, you needed help and so you'd ask and you'd go somewhere else? And I guess the question is, if somebody just felt stuck, like I should be able to do this all myself and I should have that self-reliance and willpower, and what would you recommend in terms of dealing with some of the internal struggles people might have in terms of asking for help. And if they get a no, then, you know, thinking they deserve to ask somebody else for help.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for asking that question. That's probably one of the most powerful questions ever, to be able to ask for help. Yes, there's an imposter syndrome, right? That we feel we're not good enough, that we're ashamed that I should be able to do this. Let me say one thing. None of us are going to get through this life by ourselves. None of us. We need the help of each other. And it's okay to ask for help. Because sometimes I even have people who would come up and they're like, wow, I could have helped. I didn't know that you needed help. That was so easy. Like, I could have done that for you, right? Whether it was buying books or doing whatever that was. So yes, there were some moments that I didn't feel comfortable. And there were some moments that I wasn't even aware that I needed help. And sometimes when somebody would say, do you need help? I'm like, oh, no, I don't, right? When in reality, it's like, ooh, I'm going hungry over here, you know? How do I ask for help right here, right now? Because people are willing to help people that are willing to help themselves. And being willing to help ourselves is asking for help to begin with. Take the shame out of it. Shame is only the meaning that we're giving to it. I'll repeat that. Shame is only the meaning that we are giving to it. That other person is more than happy to help. They're not giving shame. They're not giving the meaning of shame to it. They're just saying it's help. That's all it is. Does that answer your question, Leah?
Thank you, Leah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, a really good response. Thank you.
So much.
Well, really good question and response. Okay, how about another person? Just unmute your mic.
I hear a mic became unmuted.
Yeah, well, while we're waiting, I was just going to say that we went ahead and we put the phone number for the daily phone calls into the chat feature. So you can access that there. And any other questions?
On that call, we do have people from coast to coast on that call. So just know that there's people on the West Coast and there's people on the East Coast as well.
And it's 7:30 Mountain Time, 7:30 to 8 o'clock Mountain Time.
7:30 a.m. Mountain Time.
It's for early birds.
And early birds get the worm. Okay, I learned that very early on in my life, that early birds get the worm. And also that when you wake up with that level of energy, that somebody's coming to support you, to inspire you every morning, get you motivated, anything is possible throughout the day, as opposed to having a call really late at night when you're getting ready to go to bed. In the morning, I'm even fired up. I'm like, I am ready to take over the world every single morning when I wake up. And so are the people that are on the call. Most of them will call, and if they miss a call, they're calling me and saying, Rocio, I really needed to be on that call this morning because my day just went all over the place. I should have been on that call.
That is awesome. Any other questions? And I've got a couple other little things I want to add in. But other questions, we'd love to have your questions. And also you can feel free to put them in the chat. But I also just want to say that one of the things I see in Rocio is that I've watched her the last few years with our first gen leadership students and the work that she's done with the other mentors and trainers. And my hope for Rocio is that these books just take her amazing abilities just all over the US, all over the world, helping millions of students who do not come from wealth and who come from abuse, addiction, whatever different backgrounds, foster care, and that they become as successful as she is, and with that same generous heart that she has. Because I think when you grow up with nothing and you work so hard to get out of those situations, you have such a generous heart to help other people. So I just want to say, I think that's my wish, is I have seen her bright light for a long time. And I think one of the really great things about GlobalMindED is it's this big stage for people and their talents and abilities to be harnessed, you know, in a bigger way. And I just see millions and millions and millions of people in the decades to come really learning about how she's been able to become the person that she is. So I just want to have a big big acknowledgement there. And I'll ask you maybe one more time if there's any other questions. And somebody just said, this has been enlightening and I now have a different mindset. Thank you so much. That's from Jennifer Nazario to everybody. So thank you, Jennifer. And somebody said, thanks so much. This was great. I appreciate the motivating presence and words. I appreciate that these will be available for my students. Yeah. So Rocio, any closing thought to everybody before we wrap up?
Most definitely. Thank you so much. My closing thought is that we're all unstoppable. All of us are unstoppable. We were born unstoppable. And it is up to us to claim our unstoppable nature. That's in all of us. I'm here to serve. I'm here to support people on their journey. We have a number of webinars and we have a lot of work that we've been doing through our newsletters and webinars to connect with people to ensure that they're doing the most extraordinary work possible. That we all have a gift inside of us. At the end of the day, we're like that tree that's outside. No matter where we're at, we see a tree, right? And that tree started off with a seed. And that seed had everything that that tree needed. The texture of that tree, the leaves, the color, the branches, the possibility, and everything inside of it. And now it's time to plant that tree. It's time to plant that seed, and that tree will blossom and grow as long as it continues to be nurtured and watered and fed. It's the same thing with us. That's what we're here to support. There's magic inside of all of us. And each and every one of us brings a very unique approach to life. We bring solutions into this world. And just like that tree's fruits that it bears are not just for the tree, they're for everyone, right? And just like everyone's fruit on their tree are also for others to enjoy. So we have solutions inside of us that are locked inside of us. And until we become vulnerable, and until we become unstoppable, and until we own who we really are, we are creators in this universe. We're extraordinary individuals. We all came here for a reason. And we all have something to give this world. And it's time to unlock that potential. And for me, it's to help people introduce them to themselves. Because it's there. It's in all of us. To put that mirror up and say, hey, you're right here. And there's amazing stuff inside of you. Let's go ahead and see it. Right? So that's my message, to always learn, to always seek to understand, to get to know ourselves at a very different level. Who am I? Right? Not who I pretend to be, because a lot of us are like wearing mask. You know, I wore a mask when I was being abused. The mask that everything's okay. There's nothing wrong. I wore the mask that I didn't feel good enough at times. That I had to wear a different mask so that, oh, I feel good enough. But really, that wasn't true. I was hurting in the inside. And then I wore a mask for this person and that person to be safe and do this and do that. At one point in my life, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know who I was. And that's the difference between being authentic and vulnerable. To really connect and get to the core of who we really are. Who are we as individuals? To start taking off those masks. To take the mask off of shame, to take one that I don't feel worthy enough or feel good enough or beautiful enough or smart enough or whatever. It's to take all that off and just to really be in the beauty of the presence of who we are in this world, that there's so much to give to individuals. There's magic inside of all of us. Bring it out. And the course of humanity will never be the same when we do that. So I acknowledge each and every one of you for being the type of people that shows up on a Thursday, that shows up to your life, that shows up to what's possible and probable, because you know that that's you. You know that anything is possible. Continue to show up. I acknowledge you for being the type of people that continue to ask questions and put yourself there. And that's what I acknowledge you for. And I acknowledge you for all your future success and all the contributions that you will make in this world. Thank you for that.
We get a virtual round of applause for Rocio. Thank you so much. And like Rocio said, thank you so much for making time for this. Many of you are teachers, and I just hope that you will share this widely with all of your students, and they will see their own potential. They will not take no for an answer. They will not limit themselves. And together, I think we can create the most wide and amazing web during this COVID time that will launch us into anything we want to do as a nation and a world coming out of COVID. And that will end up being the silver lining, I think, for this tough time. So I want to thank Rocio and Lisa Wyckoff, who coordinates all these sessions for us, and also Celeste. And it's been a pleasure. So thanks again so much, Rocio. And within 24 hours, we'll have it posted to the GlobalMindED 2020 YouTube. And we hope you'll all join us tomorrow. We have a lunch and learn on industry exploration. And then we've got a graduation celebration tomorrow afternoon, and everyone's invited. You don't have to be graduating. You just have to want to be tapping into that energy of commencement, of starting. So thanks again, and have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Rocio.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.